Scott had submitted a site report with my name as a discoverer, and I don't think they liked that. And so when National Geographic came out, they're like, well, we'll get the sheriff to go with us because the state park is going to call the sheriff on you if you go out there. And if the sheriff's with us, then it'll make it a little difficult. So we got the search and rescue team, or Jim did, and other people got the two different counties here teams together and started to put together a plan to try to get the large beam that I'd found out of the cave. The large beam wasn't the only thing I found. I just left it at that at first. But I mean, the same day I found support for one of the decks, and that was where, that was only 10 minutes later. And when I saw that, it was, I was 100%, positive that this is what it is. It wasn't just a random big beam that I found. And it was like every rock I looked under, I found another piece of wood from the same material. And then, so once that was all, confirmed and all that went down, they weren't letting anybody go out and recover any of this. I personally had been told by the archaeologists that it wasn't shipwreck wood originally, over and over again. And they told me if I think it's cool, because there's Oregon rules that you can keep driftwood, take it home, Craig, because if you think it's cool driftwood, there's nothing to stop you from taking it home. So the pieces that weren't pinned down under the car-sized boulders and bigger, that were washing around randomly, I would take them home and start doing conservation on them, because I have a friend that did, underwater CSI for years, Ty, and he showed me how to do, a lot of these different conservation techniques, because he'd done it for the feds. And I started just, doing the proper procedures with these wood to keep them from falling apart. But I noticed that stuff is almost like steel. It wasn't hardly cracking. It wasn't falling apart like you would imagine some ancient wood would, just like everybody was saying, it'll just fall apart, you can't touch it. This stuff is like bulletproof, literally. Didn't cheat any, but literally, this stuff is hard, and it's been mineralized from all the years of the minerals that are in the rocks out there, and the sulfide arsenic ore that's out there is breaking down and preserving the wood and keeping the bugs and worms out of it for the most part. And it's trapped underneath most of the ship is trapped underneath the giant rock slide, car-sized buses and, our bus-sized rocks and car-sized rocks. And, there's large beams trapped under it, potentially what looks to me like the whole side of the ship. There's some non-ferrous metal hits out there that are probably the cannon and all the other, stuff that probably ended up there for the most part. And it's all being preserved in some respects because there's a lot of zinc in the rocks out there, and a lot of lead and because it's a sulfide arsenic, hydrothermal contact zone from the basalt that flowed in under the sedimentary layers there, because it's kind of that contact zone where I'm at. And so that stuff's been preserved in the wreck, I believe. There's no science that's been done on it, but that's my insight on that. And so in 2021, Jim Delgado finally got, everything in place to go out and recover this one big beam that was still there. And there's still other, beams that were trapped that are unremovable by pretty much any means possible. It'd be an extremely complex, situation to try to remove some of these pieces of wood out of the rocks that are out there, because they are literally car-sized and bigger rocks in a surf zone that never calms down. So, but in 2021, they did the removal of the big beam with National Geographic, crew, and then in 2022 we went out in July and ran, magnetometers and sonar with the company that Jim was working with. I'm not sure if he still is, but Search, and a guy named Art came out and helped with all the electronics. He's kind of the electronic wizard with all that. And we went on. They did an offshore search to see if the wreckage was offshore, because the archaeologists were not wanting to give me credit for finding the wreck site. They were hoping the wreck was offshore, that somebody else could kind of take a claim to it, I think. And nobody really wanted to confirm that, other than the first original survey we did with Scott and a couple of the archaeologists on the site itself. Nothing was ever kind of followed up on. And it's still kind of hanging in limbo to that, at that stage today, but there's slow movement being made to get, material out there. Some of the archaeologists thought I was out there digging stuff up and breaking the rules and doing all this other stuff, but I was being as transparent as I always could be within the laws, working with Scott and the volunteer group. And, I refrained from literally going up on the hill and metal detecting all around the site in the state park because, I'd just get in trouble. And if I found a large hoard and wanted to try to uncover it, it'd just be impossible, and then they'd take it away anyway. So, right. my hope was to, we can get this all out there with the, media and tell this story. It's an important story. It's first contact on the West Coast, that's documentable, and all the above. There's been people in, generations of people in the area that have been asking this question: where's all this beeswax coming from on the beaches? And I've got a couple of YouTube videos on there that I do my best to explain, and I'm continually adding more on to explain the wreck site and the area. The beauty about it is people are going to be finding porcelain shards from the wreck, for another 300 years on the beaches when they come down to visit. And so, I thought that was going to be a really big, thing that the state would embrace, but they kind of didn't. They were trying to tell me I couldn't go down there and find it, and nobody else can either, because it's anything over 50 years old in Oregon is considered historic. But you got to know that it's historic to, get in trouble. So, but they're never going to be able to control it because it's washing up every day on the beaches in different locations, and people pick it up randomly without even realizing what they have. Yep. And I think it'd be important that they do know what they have, and they'd be that much more excited about it. It's just like, and I know when you find a treasure metal detecting, you can't even almost probably fully describe your feelings because it's so exciting. And it's the same thing that, people will be able to experience on our coast here for years, I believe, going down and, I have metal detected. I used to actually have a permit with the state park years ago when we were doing the Naga project, and I metal detected all over. Never found a Spanish coin with dates on it like I'd hoped, or any other really major clue, mostly, beach stuff that people lost. And, so there's been a few items that were found over the years by other people. Like there was a little silver oleum jar that was found in the wreckage that everybody says, in the past was in the Nehalem Dunes. And that's where Scott and the Naga project and everybody, we were all looking in the dunes in the state park, in another part of the state park on the Spit, because that's where historically everybody had supposedly found something. But did the Lost Dutchman tell everybody where he found something?
Yeah.
No. So there was all these different people here treasure hunting and competing with each other. There's stories about people literally mining beeswax off of the Spit. There's stories of, tons of it. I think there was 10 or 20 tons of it sent to the Queen in Hawaii at one time. That was all, salvaged off the Spit here. And there was other large, quantities of it found. I've actually found beeswax walking down the trail that everybody uses to go to one of the beaches. And my friend Shrimper Jim was in front of me, and he's complaining to me, because he'd gone with me porcelain hunting a few times, and he's like, you always find everything. It sucks going with you. And he was literally giving me that big speech all the way down the trail. I've only found one fingernail-sized piece, and you find 5 pieces every time we go. And he was just kind of going. And I looked down, and I thought I saw an agate in the trail. And I stuck my thumb in it, and it was soft, and it was a piece of the wax from the shipwreck that everybody had been walking on. It was worn down from people stepping on it, and nobody had recognized it, right under everybody's feet. Cool. And so, there's people for instance, Matt McCauley from the Northwest Shipwreck Alliance and Devin were down here, and we were having dinner, and you can't almost go anywhere in the community and not have somebody know something, or they have something on their shelf at home, or on their mantle, their fireplace that was from the beach they found. They think it's from the wreck, or it is, and there's a lot of people find wax, and we were literally sitting down and having dinner and got tabled up with some other people because it was crowded, and they overheard us talking, and they're like, "Hey, we've got a big old piece of wax in our garage," So it's really, it's really ingrained into the community for all these years, and so it kind of boggles my mind the way the news media and everybody handled the story. They didn't really want to put it out there because I don't think the state parks really want a bunch of people crawling around down there, hunting for stuff.
Yeah.
And I get that, but at the same time, there people. It's one of those situations where even if people do, they're not going to do it very long, and the word will get out. That I've looked for 30 some years for a gold coin from that wreck. I have not found one, and I know where to look. And so, maybe somebody random that finds something, but I personally believe most of the treasures from the wreck were removed, and there's evidence for that. There's a paper trail we're working on that of some other explorer or other, you can call them treasure hunters that of the past that kind of like the Lost Dutchman, they didn't announce themselves. Yeah. And so we're starting to see the light here as to, the big clue was there was mercury on the ship, and the mercury was discovered by somebody later on. And so that, the mercury was taken off the ship by the crew, then probably everything else was. And so then that person probably also found everything else as well, or that group of people. And so it's kind of interesting that there's, it's just a quagmire, of stories that most people have kind of given up on. I think Scott said it the best one time. There's been so many different layers of the story laid on top of themselves that it's hard to determine what's what out of the folklore. And so when I found, the actual shipwreck site and the carbon dates and the wood came back, everybody was, it was just this huge moment for the whole communities around here. But it wasn't approached by the mainstream media for some reason. So I never got called by any of the local media for an interview, not once. Just
that's such a shame. It's such a shame, and part of it too, because you're not a certified, archaeologist. That they're even. It seems to me that they wanted to give somebody else, claim that they, found it when you're the one that discovered it. They didn't even believe you in the beginning. So.
Yeah, no, they tried to push the find on Scott because he's the one that reported it in the report, and he is an archaeologist, but at the same time they threatened to throw him and me in jail. I never officially to me directly, but through the grapevine I heard it from like 10 different people that there were archaeologists that were so mad that he didn't go through them and involve them that they were angry about it, and because he's the state park volunteer archaeologist, he didn't include the other state park archaeologists in the report, and
ridiculous.
And so that's where the news media, as they approached him and they're like, "Hey, you found the wreck," and he's kind of like, "No, a beachcomber found it," and they would never put my name out on the news medias, but the Daily Astoria and Nat Geo did, and all these other ones followed through with the original story, but they still redacted my name out of the actual story in a sense. Except for the Daily Astoria and Nat Geo, who put it out there to begin with, but they were also afraid of getting us more in trouble of some sort. So they didn't talk about how much research, the 30 plus years of research that I'd done, and that Scott, an archaeologist, was coming to me for data. So they didn't, that was kind of the part that was left out of it. A good example is, Scott went down and he got called to go to the Kelly Clarkston show, he thought I got called, and they actually didn't ever call me. And, he told me when he,